Y'all, this is so good. Because as much as I love a documentary, as much as I love a travel show, it is so rich in history and knowledge. And they're not just giving us food. Hey, welcome back to my channel. So you read from the title, I am going to be doing a review of season 1, episode 1 of High on the Hog. Leave a comment down below. Let me know when you watch this, because then we could be on the same page. Netflix original series, High on the Hog, How African American Cuisine Transformed America. I saw this because one of the subscribers, she's also a personal friend, and she said, "Oh my goodness, you guys have to watch this." And this series had her in her feels. So I'm all about the feels. So I had to see. It's TV 14. It's on Netflix, and like I said, it's a limited series. I'm going to review all of them, and the first thing we're going to look at is Series 1, Episode 1, Our Roots. Let's get started. So in the beginning, they're giving us a really visual of different, as it's opening, there's someone talking, and he's giving us really good visuals of different foods, sugarcane, rice, and different scenes. Oh, and then they go in and talk about, so they're beginning to, he just asked this lady if she's familiar with the term high on the hog, and she's going on to explain it. Mac and cheese, they're showing some good at mac and cheese, and what the narrator just said, the truth of the matter is American food definitely has its roots in African American food. So yeah, I'm looking at a paused pot of gumbo, looks so good. It's rooted in traditions and ingenuity. Absolutely. Ingenuity is the top one. Yeah, I'm gonna let him say. So the narrator is Stephen, geez, I just forgot his name. Sattermoyer. And he worked as a chef. Food looks so good. So good. He's a food writer who's a studied chef, and he worked at a sommelier for over a decade. So he's our narrator. He's the one that's going to take us on this journey. And so far, he's doing a very good job narrating. And like I said, we're getting lots of visuals of, just different soul food, so to speak. So it's starting to it definitely grabs your attention. It's very, colorful, the different foods, the different textures. You see it. If you've had any of these dishes, you want to open up your mouth. And again, this is just the opening. He's setting the stage. He's letting us know what the purpose of this series is. It's basically to establish where the origins of this food is, so that he can also go and speak to the future generations, those young folks right now that are chefs and that are trying to preserve that African inspired food that is now also known as soul food. Right now, it's given like a little black and white of, slavery days, colored, and they are like sitting at the diner counter and stuff like that. So I'm imagining that what we're going to get is a lot of flashing back and forth, but especially history. Because again, he's talking about preserving but ingenuity. And we know, unfortunately, our ancestors were given just scraps, and they had to make the most of it. And so that's what we're talking about. So that's the thing. As the gentleman just said, somehow during all that suffering and hell, as he just said, Black people created an actual cuisine, made the best out of it. These are our stories. I'm telling you what, the introduction is playing right now, and I had to pause it because the series hasn't even started yet, and it's taking you on an emotional journey. They tease sambo, watermelon, and then I'm looking at a college band, and then they show highlight the different foods. So it's just taking you in and out, a baptism at church, everything. So the opening is really capturing you. Aunt Jemima, like I said, it's flashing all over the place. Just little snippets, vignettes into the history, some modern things, some food, some symbolism, some cartoons. It's just giving it. Africa. you know, the okra, Sambo, shucking and jiving. Then they flash back to the band, KKK, all of it. They're giving you all of it just in the opening. So it's very interesting how the opening, the intro, was created. And I believe it was intentional. Of course, I don't know the director, but that opening intro, you were up, like just in that few minutes that I just watched for the intro. You guys know how long an intro is. It doesn't take that long, but between the humming of the music in the background, but then you didn't know, you knew how you felt. And it was so funny because you went through all those emotions. In one scene, they flashed something very terrible in the sense of slavery, or the protesting or something like that. And then something good like the food masterfully created will show up, or a college HBCU band will show up, and then back to slavery or something like that. So it's very interesting that the creator of the introduction to High on the Hog, How African American Cuisine Transformed America, didn't use one type of theme to get you emotionally drawn into the series. They didn't just use old black and whites and old things depicting slavery and Jim Crow and those things. No, it was all type of stuff, and modern things, and food pictures, and the band and stuff. So it's very interesting as you're watching the intro, how you're up and down. Like in the moment they'll show something and you're like, oh my God, that's so sad. But then they'll show a pot of collard greens and you're just like, oh. And then they'll show something else and you're like, man, that's sad. But then they'll show a HBCU band and then you're kind of on a high again. Very interesting. Again, this is Our Roots, season 1, episode 1. So the opening scene, he's on a boat and he's going somewhere. A little bit into it, the song sounds African, sounds like someone speaking an African language. I already know where we're going. We're probably going to go to Africa. We're probably going to go in a place of slavery. And so, yeah, this is deep. Yep. Looks like we're in Africa. So the camera panned over the swamplands and everything. And then we're now in an African village. Looks like people are dancing and celebrating. So the narrator, Stephen, is really talking about not only knowing the history and learning the history of the African American food, but actually going home, as he says, even though he's never been there. So it's one thing to learn about the origin of a lot of African American food when you're here in America. And so it's a distant place, and it's kind of a passive existence. But he's saying how overwhelming it is to actually be in Africa and just kind of be in the place where a lot of these foods are originated. And it's very interesting because we see him there. We look like we're going into a market, and it's just kind of taking us on an emotional journey that he is going on as he's traveling and learning about the history of the food. Exactly. So he's saying that the depth of his journey is going through begins at the Dantopka market. So just as I said, it looks like he's going to a market, and that's where he's at. It's beautiful. We see authentic African garb. They're carrying the food on their head, all of that. It's amazing. So now we have a doctor who is accompanying him in Africa, Jessica D. Harris, and Dr. J, as he likes to call her. So we see someone else coming on the scene, and she's probably just going to walk him through the market and just explain the culture of it all. One thing that stands out right now to me is the beautiful, beautiful, beautiful African authentic African garb. We got the dresses in the bright blues and the greens and the yellows. We got the head dresses, and just everyone's just dressed so colorfully, but also in a garb that we normally would wear on special occasion here in America, but they all are dressed like that. So Dantopa is one of the largest open air markets in West Africa, and that's what they're walking through. Beautiful smiles, beautiful people. They're picking through their ginger. They're picking their, they're moving their product throughout the aisles. And so, yeah, just beautiful. So he's overwhelmed right now, not necessarily overwhelmed. He's just walking and he's just saying, wow, my boots are on the ground in Africa. Leave a comment down below. Do you want to go to Africa? Whether you're African American or not, I got all type of people watching my channel. Is Africa somewhere that you really want to go? It is one of my dream trips. My only apprehension is, going through markets like this, I know animals run free or whatever. And if you know me, you know me. I'm not really an animal person. But I think I'd take one for the team and just be a little jumpy and everything, just to be able to experience the market experience in Africa. Just looking at it through the lens of this show is just really, really captivating. And you want to learn more. You want to see more. I want him to go all through there and just kind of give us this authentic experience. So far, so good. So Dr. J, he's explaining who she is, and to him, she is like a masterful hero to him. She is someone who is not only someone who he looks up to, but she is an author. And so he said she's written over a dozen books, and one of the books that she wrote was High on the Hog, which the series is named after. I wanted to explain what High on the Hog means, but I feel like they're going to explain it and then I'll expound on it. Let me know, leave a comment down below if you've heard the term high on the hog. You're eating high on the hog. Usually that's what they say. Oh yeah, we're eating high on the hog tonight. I cannot get enough of the African dresses and even the head wraps. They're not bonnets or anything, but just really, really rich in culture. Dr. J explains that the market is the heart of the place to be. And it is. When you go to these countries and stuff, where we have an occasional flea market and stuff, like that's the heart of where they are. Not just in Africa, other countries as well. That's where they get their business done. That's where they get their money. And so that's what she's explaining. You're in the heart of things when you're in this market.
More in the heart of this. Yeah. We have basically walking retail outlets. Right. Oh yeah. You can get.
As Steven said, you basically walking retail outlets. Like you can get everything known to man at a market, and I respect these people's grind because they come out every day, and it's a family thing, and they're doing what they got to do to feed their families. And unlike in America, we're so privileged that most people in America don't have to do a swap meet or to set up a table in a swap meet to make ends meet. Like this kind of hustle, this type of culture is something that is so foreign to America, but this is their way of life. So if you ever visit places like that, one show that I really like to watch is Amazing Race. And one thing I like is when people are when they're racing and they go into a market, that I appreciate the couples, the contestants that respect people in the market. We as Americans can really be kind of pompous and put our nose down on people. Oh, it smells. Oh, it's dirty. It's too many flies. Why are they selling this? This is too cheap. This is not enough. But the thing about it is that we have to understand that this is their livelihood. This is not just a side job or whatever. Like, I remember when we visit different islands, Mexico, different places, and they're haggling you like crazy. Yes, it is very annoying, but we made sure to buy at least something from somebody. Like sometimes it could be a scam or whatever, but especially when you go to these markets, respect people and their craft, their products or whatever, because we don't want to take it lightly on the fact that that's something that we don't necessarily, that's not how we live here in America, but that's their livelihood. So respect it. So they are now in front of someone's produce, and it's okra, and they're talking about their love for okra and how they identify it as something that they know what it is. She has okra on her business cards. Me personally, I do not like okra, but I grew up on okra and eating okra dishes. That is a deep, deep, deep Black Southern South thing. Hey, okra made the journey. And I didn't say Oprah. Okra. Okra made the journey on the boat with us. That's what Stephen just said, and that just hit me in my feels. How much, so much of African original, authentic African plants, dishes, we dismiss and forget made it through on ships. How much made it over to America because of a slave ship? So Dantopa is one of the largest open air markets in West Africa, and that's what they're walking through. Beautiful smiles, beautiful people. They're picking through their ginger. They're picking their, they're moving their product throughout the aisles. And so, yeah, just beautiful. So she's giving history. She's dropping knowledge like no other. And she was saying how not only does it originate in Africa, that the fact that it crossed over to America. And she let you know that what's interesting about okra is if you want to ask for okra in French, the French word for okra is also an English word, gumbo. So Gombo. But of course, with things going through time, we're going to change spellings and different things like that. So again, I love the fact that this just isn't, oh, this is okra. Let me show you how to cook okra. High on the Hog, this series seems to be taking us on a journey, the origination of not only the food, but how it made it over to America and how it inspired different American dishes. So good. So good. So here he is, this American that's now in the market in the middle of West Africa. And one of the things he's talking about right now is how overwhelming but appreciative he is, and how he intentionally recognizes how he sees himself in the people around him. He sees it in their hair. He sees it in the way that they're wearing their clothes. And so Dr. J says, and our swagger. He's like, yes, our swagger. And so it's just very interesting, not millions of miles, but miles apart, to be able to see who you are in its original state. Ingenuity, that word just keeps coming up. That's what he said. It's nice to see our swagger, our ingenuity, our resourcefulness. We can talk about this in a separate occasion or whatever, not saying that no other culture, no other people had to be resourceful, but African Americans definitely had to be resourceful with food, with housing, and everything else. You literally, jump in a broom when you think about that. Like, such a simple thing, but so symbolic that went through time and became such a monumental thing for America, Black American history. You guys, you just have to watch this, if for nothing else, the visuals. Just seeing the different textures and the colors and the sounds of the market is pretty darn dope. Man, they're talking about yams and sweet potatoes, and they have some in the park, and that thing is huge as a doggone elephant. Like, that's huge. It is nothing like this Americanized yams that we have in the store. And they're talking about the difference between a sweet potato and a yam, and she's like, look, it's not a sweet potato. I'm not going to give any more spoilers away, but the history and the knowledge from this woman that we're learning is really, really amazing. The assumption is that certain things grow in North America, and she's dispelling that and just kind of giving you some knowledge. So this is really, really good. If you're the type that loves to learn, watch this series. Now they're going on about rice and the history of rice. And the African lady, they're at her stall, and she's just dropping knowledge about different types of rice. I never knew. I thought rice was rice. I thought jasmine rice was rice or whatever. But she's really breaking down. Again, I don't want to give a spoiler, but you really learn and you see, okay, if you see the term jollof rice, the lady kind of explains. And it's interesting. They walked over. They started. Dr. J and Stephen were talking about the rice, and the lady almost was like, "Excuse me, let me help you understand what you're touching and what you're talking about." And she began to literally. So there's different big, huge pots and batches of rice, and she's like, "Let me help you. Let me help you because you just think that you rice right there. That rice is called that, and this is why it's called that." So just in that moment, like, here I am, less than 15 minutes in the show, and I've learned so much already. It's also kind of enlightening me to things that I thought was native to America, but certain cultures really learned how to grow it in America. And what we're learning through this series is there's so many things that was brought over from Africa that typically was not even grown here. That's what I thought. They're going to a restaurant and they're going to eat lunch. And he said it's a low-key local spot. So at this point in the series, I'm not going to give any more away. The first episode, Finding Our Roots, that's exactly what it is. And as I'm sitting here and I've watched it, I recommend that you definitely take the time to watch this series. Now, I'm hopefully, wait for me, because I want to do a review on the second one, but definitely go watch the first one, which is Roots and The Roots. Again, the series is High on the Hog, How African American Cuisine Transformed America. It is giving you a visual representation of the journey of the food, not only of just the people, but of the food and of the culture and the different influences that it has on the American people. It's full of history, full of in the moment history on not even on set, because it's not a set. You're actually on location. That's what I was trying to remember. On location historical context. It's not just someone talking about this place, way far off and we don't know. Stephen is actually traveling to these places, and the storytellers are, and not only just the storytellers, the people that have actually carried on the oral traditions and knows the history. They're telling you, okay, this right here, this landmark means this. This is the road, that the path that they took. And then they're sharing their experience as people native to Africa and versus those of us that are African American. So this, I recommend it 100%. If you love to learn, if you love to eat, if you love to eat soul food, number one, The Roots, make sure you watch it. Again, wait for me, because I want to review the second one. But in the meantime, go watch the first one right now. Don't hesitate. It is good TV. I love where I'm entertained. I'm moved emotionally. I'm learning something. Like, you getting all of it wrapped up in one. I can't say it enough. And be looking out for the second review of this series, High on the Hog.